All right, so sorry for the technical difficulties. I've never done this before, obviously. We're trying to maintain our social distancing during this pandemic. So we thought we'd do a little demonstration of technique. The big disclaimer to begin with is, if you're going to try this at home, do it without a live load first. We're going to look today at both a traditional skate block and a tight track or a tight line skate block as well. Kevin's going to do the talking, I'm going to do the rigging, and then we have a couple guys filming in the back. Everybody's staying 6 meters away from, or 2 meters or 6 feet away from each other. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kevin.
And yeah, the skate block is actually a good technique to do if you're trying to keep distance, because we can run the operation from the ground. The only people we need to send up the structure, whatever structure it is we need to remove the patient from, is one or maybe two rescuers, depending on how much medical care the patient needs. So what we have here with this blue rope, we have set up a twin tension skate block. And what we have down here at the ground end, the anchor end, we have two clutches, basically a mirrored system. You can use any control device to run this system here. Works well with IDs, works well with clutches. Devices that we can run with one operator make this system run really smooth and get better tension. And so clutches and IDs and similar devices, we can have one operator run both. We can also do this with MPDs. We can go brake racks, we can go scarabs, we can go munter hitches. Fill your boots, whatever control device you want to use at the end. And all I've done here, because we are going to have one operator, we've used swivel carabiners in this case so that we can operate both of these one operator, and Mark's going to demonstrate the shark fin technique in a minute. And I've just used a couple carabiners here. You could use a sling, a piece of cord, just to keep the devices close enough together for Mark so that he's not fighting the tendency of these anchors to spread. We could use a rig plate there, we could use all sorts of methods. Coming up to the business end of the skate block. What makes a skate block a skate block? A skate block is essentially a self-tensioning track line. And this is the track lines, the skate tracks, run up through the carriage the load is suspended from, through a change of direction of top anchor, and back to the carriage. So all of the tension in these track lines is provided by the load itself here. Right now, we've got 50 kilograms of sand in our much abused haul bag. What we have at the top anchor here, we have two single pulleys. We could run a double shift pulley. If we're going to run a double shift pulley, we will also run a backup so we maintain redundancy. We take those two ropes, we bring them together into a mat. We use a double alpine butterfly. We make one connection to the carriage, and we have a second carabiner when this load comes to the ground. I'll have a closer look at it. That goes to the track line. So we have two connections to the track line. The load is suspended from the carriage directly, and if we're running live loads, we've got two tails off of our double alpine butterfly here. We can make whatever secondary connections we need to make. So this, we've really defaulted to the double alpine butterfly map because we use it in vertical racing loaders, we use it in cross hauls, we can use it in sloping lines, we can use it in skate blocks. We don't have to change the termination end of the ropes. We use double alpine butterfly tails and figure eights for just about everything. So we're all set up here, and Mark is going to lower the load so we can see what happens as the load lowers. Now, a skate block is really a fantastic tool. However, we don't have a lot of control over the path the load is going to take. And we're not going to see much of the path, and just a short bit of height here. But the path actually forms a catenary, and it's more vertical at the beginning of the straddle, and as it comes down, it starts to move. It describes a curve, and then it starts to move more horizontally and stop. Now, by the math, and this isn't a 45-degree skate block, but a 45-degree skate block by the physics, the carriage will hit the ground halfway between the anchors. We're obviously running a 45-degree here, we don't have a lot of height, and of course our load is suspended below the anchor. So in practice, typically skate blocks, the load is going to hit the ground somewhere between 1/4 to 1/3 the horizontal distance from the structure to the ground anchors. And if you want to get a close-up here of our double alpine butterfly map with its two connections, one connection to the carriage, one connection as a backup to the track lines, load suspended, and then we've got all this material here to make secondary connections, as well as any extra rigging points in the carriage itself.
you want to discuss just the reality of where the load lands when we do this 9 times out of 10?
9 times out of 10, it's going to be 1/4 or 1/3 the distance. There's a huge amount of variables there though, and those variables are the height of the structure, the horizontal distance your ground anchors are from the structure, so the angle you're making, the rope you're using. This is CMC's new G11 rope. So the amount of stretch that's in the rope, obviously the load. So there's a huge, anytime you're doing the rope, there's a huge amount of variables, so it's really hard to predict exactly. But typically, depending upon the relationship, 1/4 or 1/3. We're going to move now over here. We've got.
Just before we do that, let's chat about what CMC says about using that in a sharp fin with a tailor.
Okay, so
We're going down to the clutch end of it.
I'm going to refer you to CMC's video on using the clutch. They just released last month. They released a fantastic video, 4 different ways to rig the clutch. And if you are going to use shark finning of the clutches, as we've demonstrated here, they are recommending a tailor. That's the latest of the CMC rescue school. So 1 operator and then 1 person behind tailing the ropes or feeding the ropes to the operator. It acts as a backup. They also have a few other options on there. Now, some people might ask, if we're going to have a tailor, so we've got 1 person on the clutch.
Maybe you can demonstrate that, Kev.
The tailor's job is to be back here, feeding the rope to the operator. So we're not saving manpower when we use a tailor.
Let's pick it up a little bit so we can demonstrate it.
Okay.
It's the sound of freedom.
So when I'm tailing, I'm feeding the rope to the operator. So what's the advantage? Well, the advantage is this. When we're running a twin tension system, we ideally want to see, 50% of the tension in each rope. That's pretty hard to actually achieve. But a single operator can achieve more equal sharing of tension between the 2 ropes than 2 separate operators on 2 devices. So we're not saving anything in manpower or equipment, but we are getting better load sharing throughout our operation, which makes for a safer system overall.
What kind of force does a tailor want to have?
A tailor, really not much.
Half a K.
His job is just to feed the rope at a steady speed. If the operator slips up and the load starts running, it's a secondary sort of safety in that I can provide enough friction on the back end here, along with the friction of the rope running through the device, to slow things down, perhaps give the operator a chance to then catch the load, or the device a chance to catch the load. So there's a lot of good things to having a tailor whenever you're using a single operator, because when you use a single operator, 2 devices, that single operator becomes the single point of failure. So now we're going to move over again to the yellow ropes over here, where we've set up a tight line skate block or a tension line skate block. Both terms really refer to the same thing. And if we look up at the top, we can see we have 1 rope run through a high directional pulley, but the other rope, and just to make things crystal clear and not confuse anybody, we've used the same color rope for both. The second rope is terminated at the top anchor. And this is the tight line or tension line, and it is brought down here to the ground anchor, and it is tension. So we put tension into this. So what now, because when we run a traditional skate block, we don't control the catenary. All these variables, the load, the rope, the distance, the angles, those impact the path the load takes, and we have no control over it. But when we put in a tension, make one of these lines tension, we can increase or decrease that tension and therefore have greater influence over the path of the load. The first rope here, it's the same as our first setup. In this case, we're using IDs down at the bottom.
Rig.
Oh, we got a rig there. This rope's through a rig as a control device. Again, you can use any control device through a change of direction, and the rope comes back to the carriage. We'll have a close look at the carriage setup when it gets down. To maintain redundancy, what we do is we run an ASAP on the tight line. So if we do lose the skate block line, the ASAP will capture the tight line and we maintain our redundancy and we won't lose the load. So Mark's going to go ahead and operate the system now.
Now I'm going to fix this first.
What are you fixing, Mark?
Just the catastrophe knot in the system.
Okay, and go ahead and lower.
Go ahead and look up there, that's where you want to see. I'm just going to intervene, so I'm looking at my watch. I don't know which one of you, but somebody's saying that the camera is upside down. The problem is I can't tell on my watch if it's Facebook or Instagram that we're getting information from. So I don't know if one of you can look and take a look at that.
You can see it. So
I can't tell.
it's our first attempt at Facebook Live, folks. We're sure to screw something up. So here the load is lowering down. We can see the ASAP. In this case, it's an ASAP lock trailing. A standard ASAP will work as well here as an ASAP lock. You can go ahead and stop there, Mark. So we can see even in this short amount of height we have to work with here, the load is traveling a much straighter path than the catenary was traveling when it was on the twin tension skate block on the blue ropes. So again, just to demonstrate our redundancy, this rope is our skate block line, the one that
Facebook's upside down.
the travel, goes through the high directional and connects to the carriage. Load directly up the carriage, there's one point of connection, there's a second point of connection, and then from the carriage to an ASAP lock. So if we lost this, the ASAP lock would still hold. We've got redundancy through the system. Now, caveat to this system is if we're running the load, we're mid-span, and this ASAP locks up, it's going to be a whole nother revolution could be a whole nother revolution to release that. You might actually be able to raise the load, and then the carriage will push the ASAP and unlock it, but that's a baby. So it is something you do have to plan for. So the tension line or tight line skate block gives you more control over the path of the load, but it does introduce a potential problem that you have to anticipate.
Do you want to discuss? There's going to be people that ask questions about how tight do we make this track line?
So the track line, we make it as tight as we need it. The reason we're going to run a tight line skate block is because we have some need to have more control over the path of the load. There's some obstacle here that we think using a standard skate block, our load is going to impact the obstacle. We need to keep above that. So we're going to add tension to the system. Rule of thumb, as much tension as you need. Don't put more tension in than you need because we are dealing with tension line systems. And other than that, we would default to standard high line, track line tensioning rules of thumb. Rule of 12, this is 11 millimeter rope, so we wouldn't have more haulers times the mechanical advantage of a tensioning system than 12. But typically, again, we're going to add as much tension as we need to clear our obstacle. We're not trying to create a perfectly straight long path from top anchor to bottom anchor.
Okay, let's slide it up and we'll just show it getting lowered one more time. Old school rig.
A little more friction in this system. All the loads on one rope, and we're going through a rig.
And this is 100
This is more harder.
So just, do you want to just talk about what we've got here for catastrophe knot and why we've dead-ended it, Kev?
So on the, when we're using any control device to tension a line and then leaving it tension, we need to tie it off. And with Petzl's recommendations for the ID and the rig and their technical specifications, when you're tensioning a rope, you need to leave a meter of rope and then a knot, whether we put a knot in the rope, so that if this line sees extra load, it allows the ID to slip before this knot runs in. This knot is here to prevent the rope from slipping too far and adding too much rope into the system. But if we had tied this knot tight against the ID and we put a whole lot of extra load in this rope and the ID slipped, we'd never unjam the knot and get it undone. So this is in the technical information on Petzl's website. There's two methods of tying off an ID, one for rigging a rope for rescue and one for rigging a tension line. For rigging a tension line, it's a meter of rope to what we call a catastrophe knot, and then we tie it off at the end. This is just good practice In case something does go sideways, you have to undo the catastrophe knob. We've got a backup to it for
And
that.
I also did it because I'm splitting the rope so that even if I lower out the other side, I'm hitting it before I get into my track line.
Mm-hmm. So that's real quick overview of a skate block and a Technique skate block. We do get a lot of questions and see a lot of questions from people. A lot of people just haven't seen these. This is our shop. It's a small shop. It does what we need it to do. And it's great to be able to come here and rig little systems like this and practice them in small scale. It's obviously it's way nicer to go outside and have some large structure and actually be able to physically move a load and see it travel distance and see what happens as we change little things. But we do this a lot in our shop. We build systems small, just 50 kilograms of sand. We move it around, we play with it, we try different pieces of equipment, and this is what any rope technician should be doing: is trying these systems small scale without live loads to make sure that they're getting it correct, to make sure they got redundancy, and make sure they understand how it's going to operate before we take it outside and go bigger and add live loads.
Okay. Do you want to lower that once more, and we'll just go and do the video of that?
Okay. So lowering.
A lot of people have asked questions about the ASAP. We have certainly done some testing with Petzl now on the ASAP. There'll be more information coming out about that. And I would generally say at this point in life that I would trust that ASAP for pretty much anything. But I won't spoil that particular round of testing. Want to spin that for a sec, Scott? You just get me. All right, we're trying to stay 6 meters apart here, or 2 meters apart. Because there's only like 3 of us in the shop doing this, because we're trying to stay social distance. If you have questions, I see questions bumping up on my phone. Obviously, I'm trying to film and run stuff here at the same time. We're passing cameras around because of the pandemic. So if you got questions, email us, throw them up on Facebook, throw them up on Instagram, whatever means, direct message you can get to us, and we will answer any of those questions that get thrown up there. Because like I said, 1, it's our first time using social media for this, and 2, we are trying to limit the amount of people that are around.
Ideas for futures.
Yeah, any ideas for future ones of these? We'd like to try to do one every week and a half, 2 weeks. So feel free to throw that out there as well. Stay tuned. Within a couple weeks, we'll also have the testing we did with Petzl, with Craig McClure and Ronin, with the ASAPs in the bottom of an English and Norwegian Reeves, up and live as well. So that's it. 18 minutes of skate blocks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.